Hi, this is Stephen, and this is Astro Indicator Update, Excursions into Practical Astrology, and this is episode 52. And today we are going to maybe look at the Pluto-Uranus transit, which is occurring in the U.S. chart. Look at it a little bit more deeply than we have in the past. I won't go into it in a lot of detail because I have in other videos. But are there better ways of this energy being expressed in the world? That's sort of my point here. Because primarily, for many people and collectively, we see it being expressed as manipulation and control when it comes to Pluto. And we see it in the streets and cities in the U.S., the Uranus energy today as what I regard as the negative expression, self-centered rebellion. Are there better ways of being? Are there better ways of expressing this energy? I'll touch upon a Russia Today article by Helen Buyniski, which I think is interesting. Give you a book recommendation by Jim Mars, and then we'll look at our market updates. Okay, excuse me. So this is the chart of the USA. The transits are in the outer ring. The USA natal chart is in the inner ring. And we are going through some slow transits, which I've touched upon many times. And right now we see this opposition between Pluto and the USA Mercury. Please go back to some of my other videos. You'll see in the title USA transits, etc., etc. But we have a Pluto-Mercury opposition that's going to continue for over a year from today. And in addition, there's a number of things going on, but one of the other, I think, primary aspects that is taking place in the U.S. is this Uranus in conjunct the ascendant, okay? And, excuse me, let me see if I can get that out of my throat. I'm sorry. And so let's see what these mean, and let me just define, I think, some better forms of expression of this. Because there are, even on the individual level, there are kind of higher and lower forms of this expression. So Pluto-Uranus transits, higher and lower forms of expression. Pluto, well, you may disagree with me, particularly if all you listen to is mainstream media, but I think that there is an increased amount of manipulation, control, a power grab, deceit, greater, tyranny. It's an old-fashioned term, but I see it happening. And greed in the world today, usually coming from the powers that be, but you can see it on all different levels. Is that the only way to express Pluto? It's not, and I know this very personally because I have a strong Pluto in my chart. I've had to work with Pluto a lot in my life, and there is a better way, because I think Pluto also symbolizes the power for healing, the development of fearlessness, and the ability to disattach oneself from kind of darker elements of the world, in the world, and within oneself. And sometimes that takes fearlessness, but it is a distinct step that people need to take to disattach from darker forces, to recognize them and disattach. Uranus. We have rioting in the streets, no matter what you call it. We have violence happening. People are being killed. And this is kind of blind rebellion, at least from my perspective. A lot of it is just coming from extreme self-centeredness related to Uranus energy, a willful disruption of the status quo, things that really don't have to take place in my estimation, because there is an alternative way of expressing Uranus energy. And that is just acknowledging that one can think on their think their own thoughts, think for themselves. You can be an independent thinker, no matter what the conformist energy, the political correct climate might be. You can deal with, peer pressure being against you. That is a positive for a Uranus energy in an individual's life, or or its effect collectively on you, which is what's happening. These are energies that are collectively affecting us, this Pluto and this Uranus energy. And my point here is suggesting there are more healthy, more positive forms of this that we can manifest in our own lives. And just as a forest is made up of individual trees, if every tree took it upon themselves to be more green, that forest would be a healthier forest. And so, again, a more positive manifestation of Uranus is thinking for yourself, having a more objective, collective awareness of what's going on, greater psychological insight, and then living your personal truth. Those are, in my estimation, possibilities. Okay, I came across this article. I've been reading Helen Buyniski's articles for some time. She has a website called Helen of Destroy.com. But she is a tremendous writer. She's very creative. She's just a powerhouse when it comes to the use of the English language. And she writes somewhat regularly op-eds on Russia Today. This is a very good article because she's asking, millennials can't afford property, so don't care about protecting it. Why are we surprised they're setting fires and smashing cars? This is a good question. You may completely disapprove of that behavior, which I do. But we have, a whole generation that's disenfranchised, from, I'm exaggerating, but many in that generation are disenfranchised economically. And this is an issue, an economic issue that needs to be addressed. I don't have an answer for it. But, some of this, you could cite, conspiracies related to, they're being paid to do this, but then, what kind of person would do these things when you're destroying, minorities, businesses, and so forth? Then it's just senseless. It just becomes ridiculous. However, if they have a background of being economically just, dispossessed, then you're more susceptible to a mob mentality, to engaging in things like this. And this article is a very good article. You can go to RT, you can find it now, or you can go to Helen Buyniski's website, which I just cited. Another thing I'll recommend, I've been rereading this book, and you can tell this is maybe a controversial subject. But Jim Marrs, who's no longer with us, wrote a number of very good books on secret societies, assassinations, so forth and so on. But the history of the U.S. corporate banking world, the history of that world to the rise of Hitler and the Third Reich, is one that most Americans are unaware of, and they should be, because it is something that is completely a black mark on U.S. history, but it also is worth thinking about, because why was it so many bankers, so many corporations supported Hitler in the 1930s, right up until the war? And, even, very well-known people, Allen Dulles, his brother, John Foster Dulles. Dulles International Airport. Dulles was at one time a CIA director. JFK, John F. Kennedy Jr., John F. Kennedy, fired him because of over the Bay of Pigs. And he was the head of the Warren Commission. But understanding the history of these people who seemed very supportive of what was going on with the Nazi movement is really difficult to understand. And after the war, many people are still, at least have completely are unaware, or just have a very shallow understanding of what Operation Paperclip was, and how we brought in, really several thousand Nazi scientists to work at NASA, to work in our universities, our military-industrial complex, and that, in my estimation, I'm bringing this up because I think, Nazism embodied the worst of the Pluto energy that I've been talking about in this video blog. Just the worst. Power, control, manipulation, just dark forces all over the place. And many of our powers that be in this country for many decades were somehow, for some reason, supportive of that. And somehow they just pretended that to allow these scientists to come in, take over NASA, essentially, that they were going to drop their ideologies at the door when they entered the U.S., and that wasn't true. And so there's much more to this book. And the one thing why I'm bringing it up is that people need to understand history better than they get off YouTube, okay? And there are certain authors you got to learn to read. You're not going to get in a 10-minute YouTube. And certain authors, like William Engdahl, I like him. Jim Marrs is great. Sutton, his books on Wall Street and the Nazis. These are things that need to be included in one's personal education. And I think it would help then to understand maybe kind of what's going on. Because this ideology, maybe not in all its many facets, this ideology of power and control is always an element if people gain too much power. It comes into play. And so this history is one. This book is one that I recommend. Okay, let's get to our charts. And so if you're new, I use astrology to point out important dates that are upcoming in a particular market, which I think coincide with price movements that are significant. And the way I do this is I combine these dates with traditional, conventional technical analysis. So if you don't know technical analysis, this is going to make a lot of sense to you. You need to understand trading and technical analysis. But these vertical lines relate to the astrology of this specific market, the Dow Jones. The horizontal lines are just, obvious kind of support and resistance areas. That's what they're called. I draw in price patterns here that are part of technical analysis. I include overbought, oversold areas. Well, this is the Dow Jones Industrials. We just had a fairly significant date come up, and I have to shuffle through my charts because they're all stapled together. And we had this date. It was on August 21st. And the thing is made it significant is there were several things going on right at that time. And the green lines, I think, are more important than this colored line, kind of the tan line. So we had an important date. We're going through a stretch of time where there is not a lot of astrology. And very often what happens is that you get a continuation in the trend. This is a good example back here until the next date. Now we have this really long stretch, and I can't say 100% for certain what's going to happen, but there's a definite potential that we will extend out until the end of September, which is the date down here, which happens to be another strong date, which usually historically is bullish. So this market, the S&P is already above all-time highs. The Dow is not. This market could definitely go higher. And with an election coming up, there's a lot of people that would like to see this market go higher. So that's about it for the Dow. And the gold market, we have hit all-time highs. And I have been pointing out when we had really strong dates, way ahead of time, like right here. And, going back here. But we were overdue for a correction. I had which many people had been forecasting, including myself. We were completely overbought, as you can see down here in the RSI. And so this was a healthy thing. We needed to correct, even though we had some strong dates in here, and I wasn't certain that this market just wasn't going to go higher. In actuality, it's probably a good thing that we were having this triangle formation play itself out. We may have broken out on Friday, which is that last green bar that you can see there. And now what do we have upcoming on September 7th and on September 21st? So let me take a look. Well, the 21st date is much stronger than the 7th. Historically, this date usually represents increased volatility. So we'll see. We are getting down into the neutral zone in the momentum indicators. If we get a crossover down here on the MACD where the blue line crosses over the red line, that may indeed coincide with this September 7th date, and we would go higher. But this is an unpredictable date. This one, not so much. This is usually quite bullish out here on the 21st. Okay, I included this ETF for the junior gold miners because we've had some consolidation, a healthy thing. The sentiment has dropped, which it needed to drop in order to attract more buyers. Now we are bumping up against this resistance level. If we go through that resistance level, then probably, because this is a fund that is reflective of junior miners in general, you'll have a lot of independent or individual mining stocks go higher as well. So just as a barometer for junior miners, we can see it bumping up against this resistance level. If it breaks through, we'll probably have what's called a back test. It'll come back down, and then we probably will go higher. That's my best guess. This is not trading advice. I'm just sharing with you my research. Okay, with silver, we had a strong date happen on Friday. And depending how you draw your triangles, however you draw them, it kind of looks like maybe we have broken out. We broke out on maybe Wednesday. We had that red candle, that red bar back test. And now we could be going higher because on the 28th, which was Friday, a very strong change energy came into the market, and it looks like it's going higher. I would like to see some confirmation over the next few days, but I would say that that's true. I am doing this, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm doing this on Sunday, August 30th. I should have said that earlier. Maybe I did. But this is on Sunday, August 30th. Actually, maybe we'll see something later today in the futures market. But beyond that, we have like gold, on September 3rd, we have a date that's usually brings in a lot of volatility, and we don't really, didn't draw it in here. A much more bullish date is at the end of September. I think I put that on my website. Actually, I just didn't draw it in here, but it looks like we got a big bullish, shot in the arm on Friday, which probably will continue given that we have some other dates coming up. So let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you don't understand technical analysis and chart patterns, they change, they morph, and you got to change your ideas about what pattern is forming in the process. It's really when you get to a point like where my cursor is right here, you don't know what pattern is forming. No one does. I know these dates ahead of time, and that tells me, these green lines were telling me, I could see this happening. I knew that this was probably going to be very bullish right here. It was. We got up to this level, and now we're kind of stalling out. However, the fact that we had a number of astro dates in there, suggested strongly to me that this was not going to be, a top. This was just going to be a consolidation pattern playing itself out until the momentum indicators sold off. And now we're maybe getting to that point. We had what could be a double bottom right there. And we just broke through, and on September 5th, let me see what that is. September 5th and 6th, there's something happening. And again, I'm sorry, make a note of this, on September 13th, which I did not draw in, is a grade A bullish date. So this may trade, it could very well just trade sideways until September 13th. I know I put that on my website, so again, I apologize. I did not draw that in, but you can make a note of that. Okay, here's Ethereum. It's making its own pattern. It had an astro date, kind of when we combine it with the support level that was forming, it's bounced on that support level. And it's even going higher on Saturday, which is the little candle next to it. And out here on September 12th, sort of like, Bitcoin on September 13th, I just noted. In Ethereum on September 12th is quite a strong, historically should be a strong energy for prices moving higher. Okay, so play the technicals, combine the astrology with the technicals, even with the fundamentals, and I think you'll have an edge in your trading. Okay, finally, we'll look at the US dollar. I've been saying that, how a market responds to the astrology tells you a lot about how strong this market is, and this market has been weak all the way going back to, May. I've been saying, this doesn't look good, this is not right, this should have bounced, and it didn't bounce here. Very weak response on Friday, large down day, and I think this is going to continue, okay? You might mark your calendar for September 13th, because if we do not get a bounce on September 13th and 14th, then, which I think is a Sunday, I think the 13th is a Sunday, which would carry over the 14th. This is sort of like a real line in the sand here for the US dollar, because if we don't get a rally on that date, there's quite a sizable drop that could be in play for the dollar. So anyway, that's my take on it. That is it for today. My name is Stephen. Astro Indicator Update. I've been researching financial astrology for 25 years. I have a master's degree in psychology. I've been a hard money, gold and crypto, silver, precious metals advocate for some time. If you have a question, there's my email. This is my website address. So if you don't want to listen to comments about transits of the U.S. chart or whatever, then you can just go to astroindicator.com and get the dates if you're a trader. I do accept Bitcoin donations, and I'm getting to the point where I may not even be doing this on a completely regular basis. I did it for weekly for a while. Now I've been in bi-weekly, and all I can say is, if you want to be notified when I do a video, then subscribe. That's the way to do it, okay? Because I might not even do it on a bi-weekly basis. I will always update my Astro Indicator site, so you can get the astro dates. But if you want my commentary about what's going on in the U.S. or important figures or whatever, then please subscribe, or at least consider it, because that would be the best way to stay up to date. But that is it for today. Thank you for listening. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, share with other people. That would be appreciated. So bye for now.